You've heard of the famous queens, right? Anne Boleyn, Marie Antoinette, Cleopatra. Their stories are everywhere. But what if I told you that for every famous queen, there are literally hundreds who have been completely erased from history? Their real stories are buried, replaced by insane myths that are totally fake. These are the forgotten queens, powerful women whose true legacies have been scrubbed, leaving only a convenient and twisted legend. Today, we are finding one of the most mysterious queens ever, whose entire life was destroyed by a lie so crazy, you won't believe it's not a movie. Get this. Legend says a Danish queen was sewn into a sack with a poisonous snake and a rabid cat, and then thrown into the ocean to die. This is the story they tell about Sophia of Pomerania. And it is 100% a lie. So what actually happened to this forgotten queen? And why would someone make up such an insane story to hide the truth? To figure it out, we're going on a deep dive, because this wasn't some damsel in distress. This woman was a total boss. And it all starts here. Before she was a queen, Sophia was born around 1498 in the city of Stettin. Today, that's in Poland, but back then it was the center of the Duchy of Pomerania, a super powerful state on the Baltic coast. This was no quiet town. It was a land of major league politics, squeezed between giant empires. And Sophia was born into mega power. Her dad was literally known as Boguslaw the Great. This guy took a broken kingdom and single-handedly unified it for the first time in 200 years. He was an absolute master of power. Her mom was just as big time. She was the daughter of the King of Poland, which meant Sophia was royalty from two of the most powerful families in the region. Her family tree was stacked. Her pedigree made her one of the most valuable bachelorettes in all of Europe. Her education would have been insane. She'd have learned to manage a massive household, speak multiple languages for secret deals, and we know she was deeply religious. In fact, a famous German psalm, "God is my salvation, my help and comfort," is said to be written by her. This shows she had incredible faith, which she was going to need. But she wasn't just a pawn. Europe was about to explode into the Protestant Reformation. In this chaotic world, a well-connected princess was the ultimate prize, and the court of Denmark was about to make the biggest deal of its life. In 1518, a 20-year-old Sophia travels to her wedding. Her husband-to-be, the 47-year-old Duke of Schleswig-Holstein. This wasn't love, it was a mega deal. He got her family's prestige, and her dad got a powerful ally. She became a stepmom and learned how to manage huge estates and castles, a skill that would soon define her entire life. Then, boom! In 1523, the King of Denmark gets kicked out by his own people. The government needed a new king, so they looked right at Sophia's husband, Frederick. Overnight, Sophia goes from a duchess to the Queen of Denmark and Norway. She gets a massive coronation in Copenhagen. But this is where it gets crazy. As was tradition, she was given her own lands for income. But they didn't give her some tiny farm. They gave her the entire islands of Lolland and Falster, plus castles and villages. This was basically her own kingdom. She wasn't just a queen, she was a CEO. She appointed her own government, collected all the taxes, and ran the whole show. And here's the twist. She didn't even live with the king. She chose to live on her own lands, in her own castle, giving her unbelievable independence. Of course, this created massive drama. The king was not happy that his own wife was running a rival government in his most valuable territories. They fought constantly. But Sophia did not back down. She held the king to the letter of their contract. She was proving to be just as tough as her legendary father. This woman was unstoppable, and that independence would cause the biggest fights of her life. In April 1533, the king dies, leaving Sophia a widow at just 35. The second he's gone, the entire country explodes into chaos. A brutal 3-year civil war known as the Count's Feud breaks out to decide the next king. On one side was her Protestant stepson, Christian. On the other were powerful Catholic leaders who wanted the old, exiled king back. During this storm, Sophia's private kingdom was invaded. Her money was gone, and all her power just vanished. Imagine being that powerful and then losing everything. By 1536, the war is over. Her stepson, Christian III, wins and becomes king. And the first thing he does is go after his stepmom. He had zero time for her independence. His first move was to force her out of her main castle and make her move to Kiel, claiming it was too expensive. This kicked off a war between them that would last the rest of her life. Here was the core problem. Sophia believed her lands were 100% hers. The new king said, "Nope, they belong to Denmark, and I'm the boss." This one argument led to decades of fighting. For years, they sent angry letters back and forth. She'd present legal documents from her coronation contract. He'd find new ways to take away her power. It was an epic legal battle fought with pure willpower. In 1540, she was forced to sign a document admitting he was the ultimate authority, but she never actually gave up. She kept fighting his son, her own step-grandson, when he became king. Can you believe the determination? She was a Catholic dowager in a new Protestant kingdom, fighting the king himself. Most people would have just quit. Not Sophia. For nearly 35 years, she fought for what was hers. An inventory taken after her death proves she lived in luxury and had a huge fortune, even loaning her own son money. This is the real Sophia. She wasn't a tragic victim. She was a fighter, a tough, smart, and uncompromising ruler. So, if this is the true story, where in the world did the myth of her insane execution come from? The true story is already 1,000,000 times crazier than the fiction, isn't it? It shows just how powerful a forgotten queen could be. If you're finding this hidden history as insane as I do, smash that subscribe button and hit like. It literally helps us bring more of these lost stories into the light. Now, let's solve the mystery of the lie that buried her legacy. Let's get back to that insane legend. The queen, sewn into a sack with a snake and a cat, drowned in the sea. I'm here to tell you that it is 100% completely fake. There is not one single credible historical source that suggests she met a violent end. Not one. The historical record is crystal clear. Queen Sophia of Pomerania died of natural causes on May 13th, 1568, at around 70 years old. She lived a long, full life and died a wealthy woman in the very castle she fought for decades to control. She was buried with her husband with all the honors of a queen. So, if the story is fake, where did it come from? The answer is a crazy mix of mistaken identity and one of the most brutal smear campaigns in history. First, there was another powerful woman named Sophia of Pomerania. It's easy to see how two women with the same name and their own dark legends could have been confused over hundreds of years. But the specific method of execution is the biggest clue. Being sewn into a sack and drowned wasn't made up. It was a real ancient Roman punishment called poena culae, or the penalty of the sack. It was only used for the worst crime you could imagine, murdering your own parents. Someone literally used this terrifying real punishment to make their lie sound brutally authentic. Why invent such a lie about Sophia? Her real life gives us massive clues. Remember, she was an outsider, a German princess in Denmark. She was a Catholic queen in a country that aggressively turned Protestant. And most importantly, she was a powerful woman who spent over 30 years in an open war with two Danish kings over land and money. In her opponent's eyes, it was easy to paint her as a greedy, stubborn foreigner. It's a tiny jump from difficult queen to traitorous monster. What better way to discredit her than to invent a story where she commits a horrible crime and gets a horrible punishment? The myth erases her legitimate legal battles and replaces them with a story of moral failure. This also plays into a classic historical trap, demonizing powerful women. Throughout history, women who controlled their own money and challenged men were called evil. A king is strong. A queen is a shrew. A king is smart with money. A queen is greedy. This gruesome myth is the ultimate example, replacing a story of female power with a story of female monstrosity. So, who was Sophia of Pomerania? She was not the victim in a sack. She was the daughter of Bogislaw the Great, and she had all his fire. She was the queen who was given her own islands and ruled them like a CEO. She was the shrewd businesswoman who managed her lands so well she died an incredibly wealthy woman. And she was the relentless political fighter who spent 35 years in a cold war with the Danish crown and refused to be silenced. Her true story is not about a gruesome end, but a long and defiant life. The real tragedy of Sophia of Pomerania is not that she was executed, but that this powerful, complex woman has been almost completely forgotten, her legacy buried by a vicious, baseless lie. Her story was erased because the truth of a queen who ruled her own lands, challenged kings, and refused to break was perhaps more inconvenient than a simple, gruesome myth. Her life is a powerful reminder that the history we learn isn't always true. It's often just the most shocking, the most scandalous, or the most politically convenient. The real work is to look beneath the sensational tales and find the real people, like Sophia, who have been silenced by legends. And her life leaves us with one final question. How many other forgotten queens are out there, their true stories of power and resilience just waiting to be rediscovered?